I think it was the amount of time I took getting it to that.
Yeah, right here.
All right. All right, why don't we call the meeting of Public Works to, the Board of Public Works to order on July 30, 2019. Would Diane, is she here somewhere?
No, she's not here.
Who's going to call the roll?
I will.
Could the director please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
I'm here.
Commissioner Ackerman,
Here.
Commissioner Pappas. Commissioner Moriarty,
Here.
Commissioner Tease.
Here.
And we also have Alderman Jettie, Alderman O'Brien, and Alderman Dowd, as well as various members of the staff. Is there a motion on the agenda to approve the agenda as
So
presented?
moved.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there a motion regarding the minutes of the June 27 meeting?
Move to approve the minutes of the Special Board of Public Works meeting of June 27th, 2019.
And that's the special meeting. Is there any discussion, corrections? All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there a motion regarding the minutes of the regular Board of Public Works?
I'll move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of June 27th, 2019.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes. Public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the Board of Public Works?
Yes, I would. Where should I sit?
How about taking that seat right there? That'd be great.
Good evening. My name is Paula Johnson. I live in Nashua. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Alderman Jettie for all the work he's trying to help us with West Hollis Street. And I wish some members of the Board of Aldermen who are at large would come in and help because they do represent the city and maybe they can help Alderman Jettie. As I've said before, we have serious problems on West Hollis Street. 11 years ago, a traffic study was done 11 years ago, and we've had more new homes coming in, more development. And what happens is West Hollis Street is getting tighter and tighter. We go from 505 West Hollis Street, 2 lanes, to we merge into 1 lane. We used to merge right to left, now we go left to right. It's a nightmare. It is a complete nightmare. The other problems we are having there, it's sad that we have a resident that put on their lawn slow down because they got rear-ended by their house. Because that left lane, although people say that left lane is okay, it really isn't because people just keep traveling down that left lane and nobody knows if they're going to merge or they're going to make the left turn. And then what happens is, you know, you're looking and you see these people coming in on the left-hand side of you and the traffic backs up on West Hollis Street, right around where the school is, the old Hitchcock Clinic and that other building. People will say, it backs up to the highway. Yes, it does. On rush hour, it backs up to the highway, and it's hard to get onto West Hollis Street. These are things that have been happening over the years. So I was told that the speed limit averages 31 miles per hour, which really doesn't. It's only maybe when it's backed up. We see people come flying down West Hollis Street, and they love running that red light. It is a nightmare over there. A total nightmare. And the accidents, not everybody reports them, but there have been numerous accidents all the time. Even when I was on the Board of Education and I was an alderman at the high school is really bad, but it's getting more congested. And we have to figure out with this congestion how to solve this. Because if you, at the light of Wellesley, you make the left turn. But if you go to Parkhurst, you can't get out because you got the hill. If you go down to the next street, you can't get out. You get to Heidi Lane, you can't get out because of the massive traffic. So I'm coming again, and I'm asking you, Director, and the Mayor, sit down with some of us. The alderman's willing to do it, and let's try to figure out what we can do to try to correct this. I know when I was an alderman, Alderman Lozo and myself were going to try to eliminate one other lane so that when you got to Riverside, you could only make that right turn and everything went straight, so you eliminated that merge. People don't care anymore. So they're going to go down the fastest route that they can, don't care if they shove people over, they don't care if somebody's waiting in that lane to make that left turn. And they're going to, all of a sudden, what am I going to do? They're making that left turn from Gendron to the lights. And I think around Kensington Ridge it starts. So I'm asking, let's try to solve this as a community and work together. And just a couple of other little facts on lights. I come home from work around 10 o'clock at night, and you and I talked about Daniel Webster Highway by Market Basket. The light there is still bad. I'm waiting at the light coming home from the Pheasant Lane Mall. Nobody's coming out of Market Basket, and we're sitting there. We're just sitting there. Then you go down to Daniel Webster and Spitbrook, the same thing. Nobody's coming down Spitbrook, but we're sitting there, waiting for the lights to turn. And then when you're inside the mall, are those our lights or that the mall lights? Because there's a light right by where AT&T is, that you can make that right turn at the Pheasant Lane Mall. And that light, if you're going straight to go onto Daniel Webster Highway, the light is red, and it's green coming across to go across by AT&T. Again, I mean, nobody's coming. Those lights should be tripping, that we shouldn't be sitting there. So that's basically, I think, all I have to say tonight. It was short, brief, okay, Mayor? So I didn't take up half your meeting.
No, you did very well. Thank you very much.
I wrote it out, so I can prepare.
That's very good.
Thank
I
you very
appreciate it.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm sure my alderman will probably get back to me about this. Then, thank you again, Alderman Jettie. I appreciate your help. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Any other members of the public like to address the board? And now we have Commissioner Pappas is present as well.
I am. I want to preface this with kind of the information we had when we got our first draft of the meeting agenda. I was unaware that we did have an update from the construction manager, so I will absolutely try to watch as much as I can at home. The reason I'm speaking here during public comment is that today is my 25th wedding anniversary. As such, I'm unable to stay for the meeting. I made an effort to request the meeting be rescheduled, as this isn't a regularly scheduled time, but clearly the mayor's got a very packed schedule, and I know that these are not great months to schedule meetings due to vacations. So the first item, and this is really what drove me to come, I could have probably dealt with the other items after. The first item I wanted to speak was very important to a fine young man I've known since he was a newborn. This young man would be here himself, but he's in Chicago visiting his grandmother, and I understood that Superintendent Caggiano would not be able to be here tonight. So his name is Todd Richardson, and he's been working with Mr. Caggiano in an effort to build a Gaga pit at Sargents Avenue Playground as part of his Eagle Scout project. I will tell you, Todd is a very hardworking young man, and he will complete the project in a timely fashion, and the project will be of very high quality. The second item I wish to address is the BOA referral R19-150, authorizing a construction business to park on Artillery Lane. I know it was tabled since last meeting. I think it's a very dangerous piece of legislation, and that it will likely open the floodgates for individuals and businesses to request parking in our city parks. It would be unfair to say yes to one business and no to every other individual business and to every individual resident and to every business who would benefit from additional parking on park land. The last thing I'd like to comment on is rather uncomfortable, but I thought it was extremely important to comment on. Finally, I would like to respond to comments that were made during last month's meeting. I experienced a severe asthma attack, which rendered me unable to stay for the entire meeting. As such, I wasn't able to respond to comments that evening. Commissioner Tees challenged statements I made during an earlier meeting and took issue with items I discussed in an editorial published in the newspaper. The first item challenged was my statement that Board of Public Works members appointed to the Facilities Committee were made in public session. That challenge was inaccurate. We had a workshop on April 5th on pavement degradation, which was presented by the Engineering Department. After that meeting, there was a non-public, which an asset was discussed. I'm purposely being evasive because I don't, even though my guess is it's not non-public anymore, I'm going to err on the side of caution. Director Cummings attended the meeting. At that meeting, it was discussed that HKT architects should be chosen for the first phase of our facilities, the office, which would likely be over $300,000. After that discussion, it was announced that Commissioner Tees and Moriarty would be on the Facilities Committee. And I'm sure it was in jest, but it's still, I didn't find it funny. The mayor's quote was, "The two smartest commissioners were on the committee." There was a special meeting
But
on...
I did exclude myself from that comment, so I was one of the three others.
You're not a commissioner, but...
So yes, that was a joke.
There was a special meeting scheduled for May 10th at 11:30 a.m. I couldn't attend. I asked that the meeting be rescheduled as I was concerned that HKT architects would be discussed. The reason I thought it was a fair assumption was that a commissioner was told verbally and a Board of Aldermen member, our liaison, was told in writing that the curbing on Broad Street and HKT architect contract would be on the agenda. I think that I befuddled administration as to why I thought contract would be discussed. That was why. And I understand that items can be changed, and I don't want to take a shot at anyone. But I will say during the May 10th meeting in the mayor's office, the mayor, Commissioner Tees, Commissioner Moriarty, President Wilshire, Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Darrell were in the room prior to the meeting. They stayed for a brief meeting and remained after the room after one commissioner and the Board of Aldermen liaison left the room. There is no record of a public meeting those members being appointed to the committee. I'm not saying anything wrong happened. I'm just trying to straighten out the record that some of the stuff was done in non-public, and I understand that sometimes it's hard to separate out what's public and non-public. And I don't think that there was anything nefarious. I felt I was being attacked, and I felt it was very important to respond. Further, Commissioner Tees takes exception to me putting all of this in the public, and my guess is meaning the editorial I wrote, to stir up nonsense. I felt it was incumbent upon me as a believer in open and transparent government that to put it on the record before the Ward 5 meeting so abutters of the landfill knew that a facility at the landfill might be a likely outcome. The day I think open and transparent government is nonsense is the day I will quit this board. Thank you. And again, I apologize I can't stay. I would really like to hear. I will do my best to hear as much of the presentation as I can from home. Thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to speak to the Board of Public Works? If not, we'll go to the Board of Aldermen referrals. The first being item 19-150, authorizing the City of Nashua to enter into a license agreement for a parking area off Artillery Lane, Nashua, abutting map 63, lot 45.
Can I just, before you start, I
Yes.
spoke with the attorney, Morgan Hollis, today regarding this. I did let him know that Director Cummings, Director Marchand, and myself did not support this as is for really the same reasons that Commissioner Pappas pointed out, that it would be very difficult, this would set a bad precedent, and that we would have to enter license agreements with everybody that wanted such a thing, and Artillery Lane, their parking is at a premium. So we agreed that we would try to come together and discuss this some more. So we'd like to table this this evening again. So sorry it's on the agenda, but we're going to talk to see if there's some sort of compromise that we can come to. And I think Director Cummings is going to reach out to Attorney Hollis. So.
Well, now, of course,
We could just-
this came to this board because the Board of Aldermen is just looking for a recommendation. I mean,
If I may I
yes,
speak, Mr.
yes.
Mayor? Thank you.
Alderman O'Brien.
Things not on.
Thank you. Too many buttons. This item here perplexed my committee. I'm Chairman Michael O'Brien, Alderman Michael O'Brien, Chairman of the Infrastructure Committee. And this item here perplexed us. When we look at Artillery Lane, this is a municipal park. So we had great questions of a commercial entity backing out into what is a playground. Looking at Park Rec's issue, they, in the past, looked like in the ball field heading north a bit, they looked like they went off Artillery Lane to make additional parking. And so they took some of the, the field adjacent to it to basically do that. So at one time, if you look at the old GIS maps and everything, you can see it was pretty much vacant property. With the property line, the municipal property line, going right where the loading dock is. So this property that we're talking about, where the cars would be physically parked, is on municipal property. So it's therefore like a Park Rec type of issue. And so again, with the safety and the parking and everything, and then I know the field is utilized by ball game traffic. People do park there. Would this lead into futuristic headaches between people parking there? A gentleman can't move his commercial vehicles or can get in. We're going to have to put up no parking to allow him to park there to keep those vehicles that are going to the ball game. So like I say, infrastructure had an awful lot of questions with it. And there was no monetary offer from anybody that came up in infrastructure to look at, supplementing this particular program. And again, if you want to go up and take a look, the gentleman in question did a lot of pre-work. The job is already done, and one could say that it is somewhat, what it is, and I think he's already using it. So this creates an additional. As far as I know, from infrastructure, we had no record of permits or anything else. This was just done, and now he's seeking, basically permission. So it is a conundrum that, again, perplexed the Infrastructure Committee, and we referred it back to this esteemed board to take an additional look at it, because it is joint, so therefore hopefully it was a good update.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Well, we can table this, but in the end, I don't really see how we can do this. I mean, we've had discussions over a long period of time with another neighbor who was parking in a city right-of-way, and we prohibited that based on complaints by other neighbors. And now we're going to give a license to one person after denying someone else the right to park in the right-of-way, and then someone else will ask for a license. And this is a park where we have limited public parking. So I don't see how we can pick out, I mean, we'd like to help the business, but on the other hand, I don't see how we can begin the process of leasing city parkland to where we have a parking shortage to someone who wants to be able to park exclusively there, because exclusively there for their own use. So to me, we can hold it, but I don't see how we can in the end grant it. And I got the sense that the committee you're speaking about, infrastructure, Alderman O'Brien, was kind of asking that same question.
Mhm. I would say probably my committee infrastructure would probably vote it down. We're looking to have a unification of all boards, that the city speaks the same language in this particular type of situation. Again, I have a great concern where it's a municipal park and having commercial vehicles, and the gentleman does have a parking lot off of Merrimack Street, but it's part of the business. I don't know why he wants this particular overflow, but it doesn't really matter. Like I say, if we did have access to pictometry, to which I encourage you to do so, or physically go up and see, the line runs right down, right on the brand-new, he did invest into a new wall, a retaining type of wall, and it's, from what I can see, pictometry, the line, it might be 2 feet over here, 5 feet over there, but it's pretty much accurate, and it's, like I say, it's right on up, adjacent to our property. And take a look, and I was familiar, the Committee of Infrastructure was familiar with other tenants that have equal thing, and when you look at the line as it shoots all the way up to Sergeant Ave, you can see where there's already some inclusion, so it's a complex issue. It would be opening up another issue.
Agreed.
All right, well, I don't know what can get discussed. There's some history to this, and maybe that can be explored, but is there a motion to table? Or?
Move the table.
Okay, that motion by Commissioner Moriarty. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We're now on to R19-157, changing the agent to expend on certain expendable trust funds administered by the Parks and Recreation Department.
So this is the legislation we discussed last meeting, and Commissioner Ackerman and I had a conversation about any purchases over $25,000 or over will continue to come to this board, and also to the Finance Committee. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Discussion, is there a motion? Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you very much. It was a very enlightening conversation earlier today with the director. With our recommendation to proceed forward with the change of the agent, will we also include the nomenclature to be ensured that that is received by the Finance Committee?
Yes,
Because
sure.
it does not state that anywhere in there. Okay, great.
That
That
our
we
entire
agree
recommendation is.
That anything
sent to
over
the fin-
$25,000 will come before the board, but anything below will be at your
Yes, absolutely.
preserve.
We'll
Thank you.
we'll make sure that that's included.
If there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion to move forward.
Commissioner Ackerman moves to recommend final passage with the addition that he described, that being to make it clear that the Finance Committee must also approve those kind of purchases. Discussion? Commissioner Ackerman?
Yes,
No, Moriarty.
I'm sorry.
Moriarty. You said Ackerman.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Director Fogel, so I don't know what brought this to a head here. Is it just a time factor that it takes too long
Yes.
for approval and you just,
So many of these, and I think I spoke to them last meeting, many of these cell tower accounts, the superintendent is using the money on a daily basis, or weekly basis for his operating budget. So we can't wait to get approval for every 30 days, so
Right,
that's why,
Fine.
yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, motion by Commissioner Ackerman. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Opposed, motion passes. Next, we have a presentation regarding the DPW facility construction manager. And I will,
We have, so,
we'll turn it over to the director, but before doing so, I will just say that we annually have a process of escrows, which means in part reallocation of money that has been appropriated in the last budget but unexpended. I make that proposal to the Board of Aldermen regarding how to dispose of those funds. And I haven't proposed it yet, and the Aldermen haven't passed it, but I anticipate including in the list of escrows money to retain the construction manager so that we can undertake to do the examination that the construction manager would undertake. So they were assuming that the Board of Aldermen supports the idea, which I think they very well might. We would have funds to proceed with retention, to pay the manager that we will be conditionally approving tonight if that action is taken. Right?
Perfect.
Anyway, so why don't we proceed and let
Okay.
the director
So,
Just through the
so as you
presentation.
know, we put out an RFQ for a DPW facility construction manager. We had 5 responses, which was great. We decided to interview 3 firms. On the interview committee were Alderman O'Brien and Dowd, who are here this evening. Thank you. And also Commissioners Ackerman, Tees, myself, Carolyn O'Connor, Andy Patrician, Lauren Byers, Jeff LaFleur, and John Ibarra. So there were quite a number of us that interviewed the firms. We all decided that Harvey Construction was both, had the best experience and ability to execute the contract, and that was the vote of the committee. And Rob Prunier is kind enough to be here this evening to sort of give us a little bit of a presentation about what we discussed in that interview.
I'll make copies of the presentation for those of you who are not here, but I think I actually have enough. Same as before. If you choose not to want one, that's fine. If you do, my feelings will not be hurt. But you have to have one. Good to go?
Good to go, thank you.
Okay, folks, my name is Rob Prunier, and I'm here tonight representing Harvey Construction Corporation as it relates to the DPW facilities assignment. I'm here to offer you a little insight on Harvey, maybe answer some questions that you might have, and also to confirm our commitment to the board, to DPW and to the city relative to analyzing the DPW facilities and opportunities which the DPW may have in terms of future real estate needs. So as the director mentioned, on the 19th, we submitted proposals. On the 24th, I believe, we met. And if we are fortunate enough tonight to be selected by the board, then we'll get going on this analysis that we talked about, that I just mentioned. Between now and next summer, we'll really put forth that effort to analyze all the facilities that DPW has, including the administrative and engineering facility, the streets department, and Parks and Rec, looking at environmental concerns, code concerns, program that may have changed. The things are modernizing every day, and it's tough to stay still. Our plan would be to, as quickly as tomorrow, or as quickly as we can, deploy our SWAT, our pre-construction SWAT team, so to speak, to go and start really looking in every corner of these buildings and figuring out what needs to be fixed whether it be systems or technology, space, whatever it might be. We'll put all that information together in some very detailed and organized estimates so that you'll have that information in front of you. And we'll also compare that to what it would cost and what it would take to build a new facility. And when we look at the existing facilities, we're looking at cost, we're looking at schedule, we're looking at impact that it would have on your existing operations throughout construction, trying to be as comprehensive as possible so that this board can make a qualified and educated decision on which direction to move in. And once that information is collected and shared with everyone and chewed on and fully understood and a decision is made, whatever direction that may be, we'll be prepared to help lead the city into a renovation or construction mode, and then we'll go from there. So, many of you were at the presentation, so I don't, Alderman Jettie, if you have, or Commissioner Moriarty, if you have any questions or anything, I'd be happy to answer those. I think you know a little bit about Harvey, so I won't bore you with the details, but certainly I am here to answer any questions you might have.
So when we talked about, while you're thinking of questions, the committee discussed sort of a first phase, which would be to look at all of our existing facilities and make some recommendations on whether we can renovate the facilities or whether they'd have to be torn down and rebuilt, what the cost of all of that might be, versus possibly building a new facility at the landfill, and also determining whether the landfill site is even buildable. So I think that, Mike, I don't know, the aldermen and commissioners that were there, correct me if there's any additional, but I think that's what we discussed would be the first phase. So, and Commissioner Ackerman, I don't know if you
No, that's
have
fine.
anything else to, or teased, if you have
Yeah,
anything
just-
else to add, or the alderman.
Just a brief commentary about my participation at that last meeting that we had just a week or two ago. I thought it was well-defined. 3 different groups came forward. The tipping point for me is something that Mr. Prunier from Harvey Construction had shared with us, was they want to make sure that they come in with a facility that is completely acceptable to the employees of the city of Nashua, that it's someplace that they look forward to working, that's a safe environment, that type of thing, and that at the same time, it would be palatable to the city, the residents of Nashua, the taxpayers, and to the budget. So that was a tipping point for me. I thought it was well done, and Commissioner Tease was there as well.
Yeah, I'll echo. I think all 3 folks that presented did a great job, and including Mr. Prunier. Thank you very much for your team. And I just want to go on the record again to say, despite previous characterizations, the committee has not made any decision one way or another what we're doing. We're looking to investigate all opportunities, whether it's to rebuild or build from scratch. So we're collecting data and listening to the professionals. Thank you.
Correct. Alderman O'Brien and Dowd, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I think it would be, at this point, interesting to note that Harvey Construction has done past work for the city and is continuing to do work. And one of the questions that was asked during the interview, could they handle this particular project? And we received a guarantee that met my satisfaction, that they would be able to complete this project successfully without any no hassles whatsoever. So they definitely proved to me that they were prepared and ready to go with this, so they got my support with it.
Alderman Dowd?
Yeah, I think the one that asked that question. Harvey is doing the construction management for the new middle school project. And I was pretty sure I already knew the answer, but just for the record, I want to make sure we get it online. Harvey has done superior work for us on a number of occasions on various school projects, and the projects have always come in on schedule and under budget, which is important from my perspective as the chair of the Joint Special. We've always wanted to select a company that we have familiarity with, that's done good work for us, and that we feel we can trust, and it's a big risk reduction. So I feel 100% confident that we will be completely satisfied with the work of Harvey Construction in this project. And the work isn't too dissimilar to what we're doing on the middle school project by taking an evaluation of current facilities and looking what needs to be done to them and putting together a report and, more importantly, pricing it out so that we can make logical and concrete decisions with the city's money. Thank you. Oh, and just by the way, Alderman Jettie is on the joint special, so he's familiar with Harvey as well.
So I'd like to thank all of the members of the committee for putting work in on this and interviewing. I know this took a lot of time and effort, so I really, I appreciate it. I'm sure everybody else does.
Yes.
I did have one question, which is, what do you think the timing is going to mean? How long do you think the examination will take?
In our proposal, we did offer kind of a conceptual timeline from this point on, and we're thinking that towards October, November, we probably would have that assessment kind of wrapped up and in a position for the board to start really analyzing it and digging in and unpeeling the onion, so to speak.
That sounds
And then
good.
whatever that direction is, we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Did Alderman Jettie? Alderman Jettie?
Yeah, I just, I think it's, I think I've been reassured several times, but I just want to make it clear. One of my concerns, I'm the alderman from Ward 5, where a lot of these facilities are located, and also where the landfill is located. And the people who live around the landfill have been putting up with a lot, especially this summer with the road construction. So I think it's important as you look at the current facilities, and if you decide, as part of your analysis, when you're looking at building a completely new facility, as you're looking at that, I just want to make sure you're open to considering not only the landfill as a potential site, but other sites, and that the people who live around the landfill would have an opportunity to voice their concerns. And I've said it before, if it ends up being at the landfill, it's going to end up in somebody's neighborhood, and if it is where the landfill is, I think it's important that the people who live around there have an opportunity to make some suggestions, try to avoid, problems that they may anticipate, so that could be worked into the final plan if it turns out that building a new facility is the correct way of proceeding.
I hear you loud and clear. Just to be clear, our role in this process is to give you the information to make the decisions. We certainly are not going to be, we'll make recommendations, whether it be, if you're going to renovate, you should think about this mechanical system, or if you're going to build new, maybe this is the skin of the building you should think about. But whether you build new or renovate is purely going to be up to this board and the Board of Aldermen. We're just going to provide you with the information so that you can sit back and really think it out and make the wise decision for your constituents or for the city or whatever it may be. Is that
Yes, thank you.
make sense? Okay.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Prunier? If not, I think we're looking for a motion to approve, subject to funding, the selection of Harvey Construction as the construction manager for the DPW facility that we're considering. Oh, Commissioner Ackerman has the motion.
I
Okay.
do.
Commissioner Ackerman.
I move to approve the award of the DPW Facilities Construction Manager to Harvey Construction for a pre-construction fee payment of $25,000 to be deferred until a project is defined and approved by the Board of Public Works, and a construction management fee of 2.9% of the cost of the work.
Very good. You're ahead of me. Any discussion on that contract and on that motion? You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Harvey is approved, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So just to inform the board, the next step will be for a contract to go to the Finance Committee on August 14th. And once that happens, hopefully the mayor will sign the contract, and we'll give Harvey the green light to get started.
Great.
So-
We look forward to getting together with the committee and reconciling the schedule and really thinking about the next steps. And you've given us some keys so we can get in and out of those buildings and start figuring it out.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bob.
sir.
All right, again, I want to thank everybody on the committee for concentrating on this and doing all the work to interview the various firms and deciding how best to proceed. I think you did a really good job, and I think we're off to a good start. The street, next we have the street department, item A.
Move to approve the purchase of a Caterpillar 938M wheel loader from Milton Cat in Londonderry, New Hampshire for $252,400 pursuant to the Sourcewell contract number 032515 Cat. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets, Fund, Trust, Activity, Surf.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Item B.
Move to approve the purchase of one 2020 HV 507 SFA 4x2 cab chassis from Liberty International in Manchester, New Hampshire, for the price of $88,900. Funding will be through Department 161 Street, Fund, Trust, Activity, Serve.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Item C.
I'll move to approve the purchase of a 2020 Ford F-250 pickup truck from MHQ of Marlborough, Mass. for $45,741 pursuant to the active Plymouth County Commissioners Contract Number 192021, funding through the Department 168 Solid Waste Fund Trust Activity Surf.
Any discussion? Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes, Superintendent, I'm just wondering why we didn't get the CNG engine with this.
Would you like to speak to that?
In order to do the CNG vehicles, John Stewart, Fleet Manager, CNG vehicles, we used to have them upfitted locally. That upfitter is no longer in business. So we would have to freight it to Texas to have it upfitted to the CNG package and then freight it back from Texas. That would just, the CNG package is about 20,000 more, plus the freight would add another 10,000 on top of that. And we would lose bed space, is what the problem we're running into in the current vehicle that it's replacing. Because the tanks sit in the bed and take up about a third of the bed.
So it would add, what, 40,000 to the cost? Is that what you're estimating?
Probably close to 30 to, maybe a little more, depending upon what the freight would be, because it would have to be rail freighted.
Okay.
But it creates challenges for your Sanders and Bryan equipment
Yes.
too, correct? Because of the
The tanks are located in the
loss of
bed.
it, unfortunately.
For the record, John Stewart, my fleet manager, and this was one of Jeff's purchases. Nick Caggiano from Park and Rec is not here tonight, not available. He asked us to speak to his items. Same with Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent of Solid Waste. So we'll do our best to answer your questions relative to their purchases. They did provide us some information.
Right, so again, the life of these trucks are 10, 15 years, and so 30,000 extra for that period, not worth
I
the
don't
extra.
think you'll see the payback on it.
Exactly, that's the
Recently,
point.
with the converted gasoline engines, we've been having some reliability issues as well. Losing the lower ends of the engine have been failing. The engines have failed.
Okay,
Some concern there.
thank you.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. So does that mean that moving forward, all the vehicles within the streets department, we won't likely move with an environmentally conscious CNG?
Where it's feasible and operationally efficient to do it, we will still seek the CNG avenue
Okay.
for that green impact.
So hopefully that's going to change. Hopefully somebody will come into the New England area and start upfitting trucks for CNG, first of all. But a lot of some of the trucks that we order, for instance, the trash trucks, we order CNG. So they come that way. So it's just because some of the equipment is just a little more advanced with green technology. Trash trucks, there were a lot of CNG trash trucks throughout the country for whatever reason. Same thing with buses, that sort of thing. So we will continue to evaluate every vehicle we purchase with CNG. Absolutely.
Did we vote? No, we did not. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item D.
Move to approve the purchase of 2 rear-load packer waste collection vehicles from McNellis Truck, 941 Hemlock Road, Morgantown, PA, in the amount of $552,190, pending bond approval pursuant to the Sourcewell contract number 112014, MCN. Funding will be through Department 168, Solid Waste Fund, Bond Activity SURF.
Discussion? Commissioner Ackerman?
Just a very quick question. I know the superintendent's not here, so maybe the director or the superintendent of streets. Aren't we also waiting for the arrival of some other rear-load packers that we ordered about 8, 9 months ago? Have they arrived?
No, they don't expect to see those till end of October. Manufacturers are built out 8, 9 months. But once the order goes in, it takes 8, 9 months for the chassis to be built.
Okay. So these probably are not good. The lead time on these is similar?
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes, thank you. In the motion, it states pending bond approval, so is that the city bond we're waiting for? Or is that it? It's okay, city,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
I was just going to mention that slows down the process as well, because we have to wait for the bonds to be sold before we can purchase the vehicle. So sometimes that takes a few months, so.
Anything further? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item E.
Move to approve the purchase of a 2020 HV 507 SFA HV 507 cab and chassis truck from Liberty International, Manchester, New Hampshire, for the price of $88,785. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation Fund Trust Activity SURF.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item F.
Move to approve the purchase of a 2020 Ford F-350 4x4 replacement pickup truck with plow from MHQ Municipal Headquarters of Marlboro, Mass. for the price of $41,517 pursuant to the Plymouth County contract funding through Department 177 Parks and Rec Fund Trust Activity SURF.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item G.
Move to approve the purchase of a 2020 Ford Fusion Hybrid SE for use in the engineering department. Purchase will be from MHQ in Shrewsbury, Mass. pursuant to the MAPC GBPC contract for the price of $25,550. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin Engineering Fund Trust Activity SURF.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item H.
Move to approve the abolishment of one traffic maintenance position and create one sign maintenance position at the street department.
Do you want to give us some explanation
Sure.
beyond what we see in the memo?
So, as we go through time and I get better and better acquainted with our staffing and our revolving situations, operationally, eliminating this traffic maintenance assistant position, who was from a recent retiree of 52 years, we're able to shuffle the pieces around, and I can get more out of assigned maintenance individual, more of a universal soldier. They can work across the aisle and take on more responsibility. I can run more striping crews in-house, which will help us get more production on crosswalks and stop bars. Also leading the contracted striping crews. Just gain some more efficiencies out of making this move.
Questions, discussion? Alderman Jettie.
I'm wondering, what is a traffic maintenance, what does the traffic maintenance position entail? And
More of a
what
ground
would
man.
we be losing by that?
Not a whole lot. That's why I decided to go this route. You got a safety guy on the ground. Anybody can do that. We can give a laborer to do that. They had menial tasks. It was more of a training position. They were supposed to study to try and learn the traffic tech aspect of things, working in the cabinet. But now we're going with training and certifying our guys through IMSA. So they're getting the schooling they need there, which it's a better way to do it.
If I could pause. Just want to be clear that we're not losing somebody who would be able to, it doesn't sound like it, but just to clarify it, we're not losing somebody that would be looking at, for example, West Hollis Street and the traffic problems that were brought up earlier tonight. This traffic maintenance position wouldn't be doing.
It's just that, a maintenance, an assistant. The traffic tech would handle more of that, or even the traffic engineer out of admin and engineering would lend their professional expertise to those scenarios.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we will go on to solid waste. Item A.
I'll move to approve a 3-year contract for general engineering services of the city's landfills, covering fiscal year 20 through 22 from Sanborn Head and Associates of Concord, New Hampshire, for a combined total cost for all 3 years not to exceed $270,000 or $90,000 per year. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund, Solid Waste Account Classification 53, Professional and Technical Services.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item B.
Move to approve a waiver of the $10 charge for a certified scale weight for active duty military personnel.
Discussion? Commissioner Ackerman.
So this is from you, Superintendent Ibarra, but it's for the solid waste, right? So this means,
No, that's under solid waste. It's under the solid waste department.
oh, I'm sorry, let me move forward. I apologize. So this is just simply to grant them the benefit of not having to pay, and I thought that it was a $5. What am I missing? I thought it was a $5 sticker for the thing.
No, this is the charge for the way, So they have to have, the military requires that they have weight tickets for the empty container and then for the full container. So what they do is they come on our scale when they're empty, and then they come back when they're full. So we have, as per ordinance, have been charging them for those ways. So anytime somebody private comes onto our scale, we have to charge them. And they are asking if we would waive that charge for military personnel.
It's just, go ahead.
Yeah, when they get deployed, they have to send all their stuff somewhere, and, right? Isn't that
Yes.
what it is?
Yes.
Right.
And when they get transferred from one place to another,
Okay,
they have pods they're,
okay, so it's not.
Personal items
it's
are
not-
shipped.
It's not rubbish that they're bringing in.
no,
Okay.
it's simply a weigh on the scale. They're not bringing anything in, correct.
I'm with you. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Moriarty as well.
Anything else? Alderman Jettie.
Yeah, I'm sorry for, I don't understand Is this something that, that the military, is this a personal thing for these people, or is this something that the military, the Army, the Air Force, somebody is?
It's a personal thing. The individuals are required to pay this charge. It's not, the federal government doesn't pay the charge. They have to, the individual people in the military have to pay the charge. So they're just asking that what they're saying is most of the other way facilities, and this really is not a big deal. I just felt like, the mayor and I just felt like it should come to the board because we're waiving a fee. But it would just, I think it's a nice thing to do, and it's really not a big deal, because all we're doing is, giving them a way ticket in and out, so.
We're just weighing the.
We're just
the
weighing
pot.
the pod for them, because they're required to do that, because they need to submit that to the military.
So this is their personal belongings, like.
Their personal
Commissioner-
belongings,
that
correct,
they're
when they
just
get
weighing
transferred.
So that they can pay somebody else to transport it to wherever they're going.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
All we're doing is
Okay.
weighing the,
That's the part that was missing.
And it turns out that we are the only,
we're the only ones that
we're the only
charge.
ones that charge for this. Everybody else gives a waiver, so we figured this is a good idea, help our veterans.
Right.
help
Okay,
our
I think
service personnel.
I finally understand. So an active duty military person who's being transferred from here to somewhere else, they ship their stuff in some kind of a container,
Correct.
and the Army or the Navy or the Air Force, whatever it is, requires that they get this thing weighed before they put their stuff in it and
Right.
Yes.
afterwards.
Right.
Yes.
And they're, okay.
I'm not sure why that is, but that's a requirement, so they're just asking us if we would, can somebody turn on the lights? It's getting very dark in here. Please, thank you. I was just noticing I can barely see Alderman Jettie over there.
Yeah, I finally understand.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Park and Recreation Department, item A.
Move to approve. Oh, you just did that. Okay, go ahead.
Well, go ahead. Move to approve the installation of a Gaga pit game by Eagle Scout candidate Todd Richardson of Troop 19 at the Sergeant's Avenue Playground.
Now, we may not all be aware of what a Gaga pit is.
I'm Googling it as we speak.
Now, I became aware of what it is because of the Your Voice, Your Choice project we did over in the Tree Streets. We put a little bit of money into saying that we'll do whatever project the neighborhood would like, and we developed a series of alternatives, and there was a vote. Now, the winning proposal was a foosball court, which is a small, contained soccer court, like the size of a tennis court or so. But second place was a Gaga pit. And the Gaga pit, it's like a circular enclosed area with, a border around it that's, I don't know, a few feet off the ground. And then inside they play kind of a dodgeball kind of game. It's popular with young people, and Todd Richardson would like to put one of these in Sergeant Ave so the kids that go to that playground can use this. And
And
that's,
also the pool. Kids
and
using the pool
yeah,
can
right.
go over and use it.
And this is free of charge to the city. He's an Eagle Scout, and he's willing to undertake this as his Eagle Scout project. So maybe the commission will have an intramural game among ourselves, I don't know. Maybe we won't, but once this Gaga pit is in there, it'll be open to the public.
21st century dog. Yeah.
I've heard that
wear a helmet.
Mr. Ackerman is a wicked Gaga pit player, so
Streets against wastewater.
yes, Alderman Jettie.
Yeah, I understand that Commissioner Ackerman is known as Mr. Gaga in some circles.
Yes,
But
Master Gaga.
my question is kind of obvious, but I feel compelled to ask it. Our Park Recreation Department has vetted this game and
Yes,
approved it.
yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
They have. It's becoming popular at a number of schools. And I know I was talking to Director Marchand about it, and her kids have one at their school, and I guess the kids love it. So I think it'll be a great addition. It'll be interesting to see how the kids use it.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Well, expounding upon my expertise in Gagas, no. Just out of curiosity, I looked at the package. Do we know the materials that he's going to be making it out of? Is it wood? Because
Yes.
one of the concerns through Google was that wood could have splinters over time because of the wear and tear because of weather. And is he any sort of protection along the edges that we know of in terms of that?
No, I'm not sure. The superintendent would probably know more about that.
Okay.
I could certainly ask him that, but I'm sure he'll make sure that it's safe.
I'm
He's
sure he
very-
will.
Yeah.
Mr. Caggiano does a great
Yeah,
job.
but that's a good point, and I will definitely
The
ask him.
other, the other commentary that I saw relative to Gaga pits was that if it's put in a grassy area, and I have no idea where this is gonna go in the park, but if it's put in a grassy area, eventually the grass is gonna wear down, and then it's gonna turn into strictly dirt, and it could be mud. Is this gonna be removable to go from one location to the other, or is it always gonna be affixed to one location? Do we know?
I believe it's going to be affixed to one location.
Okay. So one of the things that it said was that in order to make sure that it's a pleasant environment and not rainy or muddy or whatever, is that sometimes they put concrete down or asphalt or wood chips. Is that part of this whole?
I'm not sure, but I'll ask the superintendent that
Okay.
question, sure.
I'm sure if he thinks it's gonna be safe for the kids, who am I to judge, but that's just my editorial.
No, they're good questions. I will ask those questions.
You're on my team, Commissioner Tease.
I'll take that.
All right.
I'll ref.
Oh, no.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to say, while we're on the subject of Park Rec, we have Nolan Monroe over at the skateboard park conducting his summer camp. He's the bronze X Games winner for skateboarding in 2012, I think. And I ran into him, he says that it's going really well. He's into about his fourth or fifth week. He's got 10 or 12 kids per session, and he seems like it's going really well. So
That's great.
That's awesome.
The
This
skateboard
week
park.
and next week, and he's got a waiting list for these.
And he, of course, says that the skateboard park in Nashua is really the best in the East Coast, or there's nothing that exceeds it at least in the East Coast, and that's why he, Nolan, who was a resident, who grew up in Ringe, but still he went away and was like an X Games star. This is why he came back to school at Riviera, because the skateboard park is so good that he could use it, and now he's operating
pretty cool.
a summer camp there.
He said it's better than Boston.
So, anyway, that's going really well.
If you get a chance to go down, the camp is from 9 to noon. If you get a chance to get down and meet him, he's really an interesting kid.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
Great.
definitely.
Not really a kid, he's late 20s.
Well, I don't know if he's late, is he late 20s?
Am I doing this one?
Is 27, I think?
Is he?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, he's a very interesting.
He is
young
an
man.
interesting young man.
Engineering, item A.
I'll move to approve the residential and commercial wastewater service permits and fees as submitted.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mayor, I don't
Oh,
think,
Commissioner Moriarty.
I don't think we actually voted on the motion for the Gaga pit.
If we did not, let's return to item A under Parks and Recreation. All those in favor of the motion to approve the Gaga Pit, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. And I believe we did vote on the residential and commercial wastewater permits, so we will go on to item B, which is,
I'll move to
and I'll
approve.
call on
Yeah.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve a change order to the purchase order with Sanborn Mapping Company of Colorado Springs, Colorado, in the amount of $135,551 to complete Phase 2 of the orthoimagery and photogrammetric mapping project. Departments 134 GIS, Fund General, $41,951. 168 Solid Waste Fund, Solid Waste, $15,600. 169 Wastewater Fund, wastewater, $78,000. Account 53 Professional and Technical Services.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. We have item C, which was tabled from the May 23rd meeting.
And we're going to ask that it be tabled one more time. Unfortunately, the city engineer has asked a question. We have not received the answer back from that question, so we're going to ask that it be tabled one more month.
Move to table item C.
Discussion? Commissioner Ackerman.
Yes, I did have a great conversation with the director earlier today, but one of the requirements at the May 23rd meeting was for that civil engineer that's representing that family was to have a meeting face-to-face with either the city engineer or the assistant director, deputy director, Mr. Patricia. Has that occurred up until now?
Steve Duke, city engineer. No, the meeting didn't occur. We requested a meeting. Oh, sorry, it's off. That's why it's red, huh? Yeah, so we requested a meeting. They did not respond to the request. Instead, it sent in a letter, and a copy of which is in the packet. They did say in the letter that it will strictly follow Public Works guidelines and specifications, and they were prepared to hire an inspector at their cost, the inspector work, and do testing. Things beyond what we normally do for these kinds of work projects. But what we wanted further was an extended bond, a 5-year bond for the life of the street. And that is what they haven't responded to. So, yeah, they didn't want a meeting. I suppose they did not have any additional methods of restoration that was mentioned at a meeting that we were seeking.
Thank you, Mr. Ducrain. I fully support tabling it, and it's not going to get my support till there's that face-to-face meeting that the mayor requested.
Alderman Jettie.
So forgive me if this is inappropriate, but I noticed that this property is right next to, I think it's Norma Drive. Would it be possible or feasible for that landowner to make an agreement with Norma Drive is a, I can't remember now if that's a condominium development or I don't know if Norma Drive is a private road or a city road.
I think Norma's a city road.
But,
I am not sure.
as I was walking by it the other day, I was wondering whether it would be possible for them to avoid West Hollis Street altogether and connect the sewer into, or the utilities into Norma Drive.
We can ask the engineer to look at that at the meeting.
All right, anything else? Motion is to table. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Wastewater, item A.
Move to approve the user warrants as presented.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item B, which is informational, which is the emergency PO issued for repair of the short channel bar rack. at the wastewater plant. This is a big item. But what happens is the mayor, under this ordinances, has the authority to approve these purchase orders in an emergency situation, which I think we encountered, but, so I approved it, but we come back to inform you what happened. So why doesn't Mr. Boucher just kind of summarize the damage that occurred and what was done to repair it?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. The Headworks bar rack is a 3-story piece of equipment at the wastewater facility. All the wastewater that comes to the wastewater plant passes through a screen on the device and removes, as the material, large material builds up on the screen, a rake comes down and cleans the screen periodically so that the flow can continue through the wastewater plant. This protects our pumps through the facility. And we have 2 pieces of equipment. It's kind of a redundancy, so there's 2 of these pieces of equipment. Unfortunately, between maintenance of the pieces of equipment, we had kind of a catastrophic failure of one of them. It's a chain mechanism that brings these rakes up to ground level. And one of the chains had jumped the sprocket during a cleaning cycle and caused severe damage to the chain, a lot of the rakes, and some equipment above ground. We're working with the company that designed this thing to figure out what happened. So we don't know yet. Unfortunately, to visually see it and catch things before they happen is difficult because everything's enclosed. The 2 stories below ground and the above story, it's not exposed until the material comes out at the top. But we do have regular service of this. And there's also some failure devices on this that stops the equipment when it detects problems, but in this instance, it didn't until there was severe damage to it. So this is the cost to get all the parts we need and to repair it. And the service, the company that made the equipment is gonna be the one that installs and repairs this for us. The emergency PO is because it is a redundancy system. If the one that's online now, if we can't remove the large material, if it fails, then we can't pass wastewater through the facility.
Which would be a bit of a problem.
That would be a problem.
Yes. So.
Yep.
Questions, comments? If not, we don't really need to take action. That's just an informational item. Administration, we have another informational item, which is the June 2019 budget transfers. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion say, oh, excuse me, it's simply a informational item. If we don't have any questions or discussion, we'll go then to the director's report.
No,
Item B, item
and
C.
C. B and C.
B and C.
Well, I'm looking at, I guess, an obsolete agenda. Yes. I'm looking at the unamended agenda. All right, so we have item B.
I'll move to approve and unseal the minutes from the non-public meeting on April 5th, 2019.
Discussion? Were you waving goodbye or?
Waving goodbye, I apologize.
No problem. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Item C.
Move to approve the transfer of jurisdiction to the Board of Aldermen of MAP 11, Lot 158, Address 141, 143 Burke Street, excluding the 2.5 acres previously subdivided from the parcel for Division of Public Works use.
And this is, of course, Burke Street, and we've previously discussed selling this, and this would turn it over to the Board of Aldermen to enable them to proceed with a potential sale. And we've suggested that we would want to use the proceeds towards the new public works facility or facilities that we wish to undertake. So is there a motion on this? Did we get a motion, or did I just explain?
I just did it.
There is a motion. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now we finally have the director's report.
Now Diane's not here, so let's see if I can work the screen and it,
Tell me that.
I think I'm. Okay, this is, you've probably noticed that there's been some major work on Kinsley Street. We really haven't received any complaints. I think everybody's just so happy that the work's getting done. But as you can see, we've got catch basin installation, pictured on the left. We had some grading, and then reclamation on the right. We do expect that all of the work on Kinsley will be done, hopefully, definitely by the end of August, but hopefully within the next couple of weeks. They did pour all the tip downs, and that was really important before we could final pave, so it's coming along. This sidewalk, you can see here, is being installed on Marshall Street by a developer as part of a new housing project. This is the new pedestrian bridge over the canal on Lead Street, which the mayor dedicated and opened on June 17th. If you haven't walked across the bridge, it's really a beautiful bridge, and we all walked across it to open it. So it really looks nice, and it really opens up Mine Falls Park to residents of that area. This is a repair of a collapsed sewer pipe on Gilman Street as part of the sewer lining project by Kenyon. A small section of an 18-inch collapsed pipe was repaired prior to lining this section of the sewer. This is sort of interesting. I just included this because I found it interesting. I thought you might. Of course, we added scooters to. I don't know if you can see that well, but I'll tell you what the numbers are. Scooters have been enormously popular. We had in the week of July 6th, we had 1,700 rides. The week of July 13th, we had 1,700. And the following week, 1,500. So people are looking for them. There aren't enough of them. But we have 60 out right now, but they've been hugely popular, so
How do they,
pretty cool.
do they charge? How do they find their way home?
They're battery, well, you locate them on GPS
Mhm.
on their app.
Yep.
And they're run by battery. The battery lasts theoretically 38 miles, but they think a safer, more conservative number is 25. When the battery runs out, the GPS notifies the VO ride, and they come and they can put in a new battery and take out the old one to be charged. And if you sort of do the math, 60, we've had 1,700 or 1,500 rides per week with only 60
Only 60 of them.
scooters, some of
Yeah.
which people are putting in their houses to keep overnight, so even the 60
That's a problem.
isn't really a total, it may not really be always 60, but in any event, that comes out to about 4 rides a day
Yeah.
on each scooter, so they
Yeah.
are.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
They're supposed to be, people are parking them in their driveways, and like the mayor said,
Sometimes they
and
go on
they're supposed to leave them in the city right away. They're not supposed to bring them on private property. So there's been a bit of a learning curve there, too, but,
Do we get any income from that?
No.
And where they indemnify us for any liability? And has there been any accidents? I look at those scooters flying through intersections. I'm
Well,
like,
there have been no major accidents that we know of.
They look fun.
Have you ridden one?
I have not. I want to.
It's
Maybe we
pretty
could ride
good.
it on the way to the Gaga pit.
It's pretty good. It's not that difficult. You just push the thing off and just balance.
It's like it moves. Pretty cool.
Maximum 15 miles an hour. It's pretty good.
So it's more popular than the bicycles.
it's far more
Definitely.
popular, yeah.
Now, the bikes are getting,
500 or so rides.
well, less than 1 ride a day.
Yeah.
But, it depends on the week, 3/4, 80%, 8/10 of a ride per day, sometimes a ride a day, but the scooters are much more.
We think that they want to add fat bikes And we've been really encouraging them to for Mine, because we think that'll be really popular in Mine Falls Park.
Sure.
But yeah, so it's kind of interesting. The only complaint has been, they've been asking for more. People have been saying, you don't have enough scooters, we need more, so.
Yeah.
But my understanding is, I don't think Via Red's been able to
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna,
provide
it's
more
hard
than
to
that,
find
so.
them. Yes.
I have a quick question. Can you get information about where they're being used? That would be very useful.
Yes,
I
we
think
have
we
that.
can.
Yeah.
They do have a record of that,
I think the scooters are probably used more downtown.
yeah.
You know,
So they can produce that,
Yeah.
it shows, there's a map of every, like, if you were a rider, you can, at least with the bikes, I think with a scooter, you can get a report on where you have ridden.
Well, I have an e-bike, and I can do the same thing with mine.
Yeah,
It's my own personal bicycle, and it tells me everywhere I've gone.
yeah.
It's amazing.
Okay, but
So-
we interrupted the director's report, so.
Well, it was just kind of fun to talk about. Just as a paving update, Kinsley Broad, Amherst, Somerset Parkway, we thank everybody for their patience. It's been a rough road, but they will be fully completed by the end of August. So that's the good news. It'll be over soon. We did a street cleanup with the World Mission Society Church on Howard Street. There are some Park and Rec employees, along with members of the church. So we thank them for their efforts. We put on a great 4th of July once again. The 30-minute show was very well done. We received a lot of compliments about it. We had an enormous crowd, 7,000 people at the stadium. And you can see the Spartans Drum and Bugle Corps there as well. And the mayor congratulated the new Holman Hall of Fame inductees. I'm not, do you know how to say their names? These are
Temulevich
tough. Bollock,
and Frank
Temulevich,
Yosakis.
Carl Temulevich, thank you, and Frank, thank you, were this year's Holman Hall of Fame inductees. They were selected by the Lions Club, of which Commissioner Ackerman's a member, I believe, based on input from the Hall of Fame committee. So, pretty neat. On Monday, July 1st, we responded to a broken limb blocking the road. This is just an example of some of the stuff that we're doing. We have some erosion at Lincoln Park. And the street department filled in an eroded area off the pathway into the park. That was caused by heavy rains. We do have some problems at Lincoln Park right now with settling, some pretty major problems. I've been talking to the mayor about it, and we are working to come up with a solution to that. Of course, Lincoln Park was a former landfill, so that's what's caused the issues. So now this is really exciting. So the Nashua Youth 14 All-Stars have made it to the World Series. And that's been a long time since that's happened here in Nashua, so we're very excited. I met with the assistant coach and one of the moms today. They're headed for Alabama. The city has a fund to help with that, so we've given them some money for that. Unfortunately, they do need more money, so I'll put out a pitch if anybody would like to donate to these kids. It's unfortunate some of the parents can't go because they can't afford to. But if you know of anybody, or if anybody listening is willing to donate, these kids have been together since they were 9 years old. They're incredibly excited, and they're going to Alabama for the World Series. So this doesn't happen every day. So if anybody is willing to help, please contact me and let me know.
Could I, the World Series of what?
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth.
Yep.
At one point, Nashua held the World Series at Holman.
Like 89-ish,
Yeah,
91-ish.
Right.
Oddly enough, the head coach of this team, that's bringing them to the World Series this year, the last time they went to the World Series was coached by that guy's father.
Oh, cool.
Like 33 years apart.
I didn't
or
know
something like
that.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic.
And who is this guy? What's his name?
Todd Holbrook.
Todd Holbrook.
Oh.
Yep.
Exciting.
And, this one. So the New Hampshire Legion Tournament was held at Holman Stadium. It started July 26th and will run through tonight. And the number one seeded Nashua team is coached by a former Park and Rec summer help employee, Tim Lund. So here's a picture of the skateboard camp that the mayor was referring to, that has been hugely popular. I've talked to some of the parents, and they've been very pleased with the camp as well, and the kids are too. And it's pretty cool to see the progress that they make in a week. So it's been a lot of fun. He's kind of like a superhero down there. And he's fun to watch too. If you go down and ask him to jump on his board, it's pretty amazing what he can do. It's just some summer field maintenance. This is hydroseeding worn out areas at Charlotte Ave. We've been doing a lot of manhole cover repairs. The structures on the left on Crown Street, and at the intersection with Arlington, and on the right on Harris Road. Doing a lot of sinkhole repairs. This one is at 9 Temple Place. The wastewater camera crew investigated, and we found an old dug well that had collapsed. So we filled it in and paved the area. Again, more sinkhole repairs. There was a failed drainage pipe on Main Street at the intersection of Medical Way, and the pipe was capped and abandoned, and will be eliminated. This is a drainage problem on 51 Gillis Street that we fixed. More drainage issues. We adjusted grades to allow water to run off a newly paved road, which eliminated some ponding issues at 500 Main Dunstable Road. This is the sidewalk installation on Broad Street. We had put it out to bid. The bid came back so high that we decided to do it with our own crews. So they're doing a great job out there. We did have somebody set the curb, but we're doing the sidewalk work. You probably have noticed all of the wayfinding signs that are going up. Our crews are doing that. We hadn't planned on doing that, but it's working pretty well, and we're getting them up. So, and they look nice. This is Gilson Road culvert that we've had a lot of problems with beavers jamming that up. So we built what they're calling a beaver stop, so they can't build the culverts anymore. So our welders built one from scratch. So hopefully we'll see if that works. We are continuing our clarifier repairs. One of our the scum arms needed repairs, so one of our mechanics fabricated a piece to repair the arm and install it in the tank. This is lab intern collecting daily samples. Again, this is lab staff sampling the Nashua River. They sample near Front Street. If we have an event at the plant, we usually sample to assess the health of the river. That's what they're doing. And this is debris removal from a Main Street siphon. Somebody put a whole lot of wood in one of them, so we're not sure why, but Ted Barry hired 4 of the city's 8 siphons in the collection system, so we found quite a bit of debris, unfortunately. And this is a wastewater facility tour. Groundwork Lawrence Green Team. These kids are very, very active in all sorts of green technology and things, so they were an interesting group. They were very engaged and were very interested in learning about wastewater. This is our splash pad was down right before the July 4th holidays, so we were in a panic to get it going. Our wastewater electrician jumped in and one of our wastewater assistants, and we got the splash pad back running again for the 4th of July, so that was a great thing.
Where is the splash pad?
Near Sandy Pond.
National Street, I think it is.
Yeah.
Like runs
It's a small splash pad, very small. Be great to get a nice big one, but,
I know there's one in
Something.
Derry or Londonderry that's extremely popular.
yeah.
Yeah.
Be great to, Manchester, interestingly enough, they have had such a difficult time finding lifeguards that they're actually filling in all their pools and putting in all splash pads.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe they haven't gotten a ton of pushback for that, but, yeah. Kind of interesting.
Filling in their pool.
They're filling in their pools, yeah,
Seems weird.
I know. Here they're adjusting secondary digester mixer pumps. Representatives came on site to train our mechanics on adjusting cutter blades and on secondary digester mixer pumps. This is just an example of the complexity of the equipment that we have and the importance of training our mechanics and operators. The Phase 2 and Phase 3 landfills, everything's going well. We've had a little bit of a, DES has not been really easy to work with, but I think we're making progress. Approvals have been very slow, but it's coming along well. So we're still planning to have the Phase 3 landfill open in the fall. And we'll have approximately 60,000 cubic yards will be put in just to construct Phase 3. So if you're seeing a lot of trucks going in there, that's what that is. Because it needs to be built up to a certain level above the water table. And paving work has begun as the final step of upgrading the landfill gates. We finally have electric gates at the landfill, which we should have had years ago. So that's a great improvement. And this is just kind of interesting. The Container Recycling Institute estimates that 36 billion aluminum cans that were landfilled last year had a scrap metal value of more than $600 million. Isn't that amazing? Wow. Yeah. So don't throw your cans away in the landfill, please.
That's a lot of
Recycle them. And that's it. Any questions?
In good shape.
If we were only picking up cans, we'd be in great shape.
Questions for the commissioner? Or excuse me,
Director.
for the director, sorry. Alderman Jettie.
That last slide, is that how many aluminum cans were in our landfill?
No,
Nationwide.
nationwide,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Wouldn't that be
36
cool?
36 billion. Yeah, I wish we had $600 million.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the director? If not, we'll go to commissioners' comments. Do any of the commissioners have comments? Commissioner Teeds.
Thank you. I'm sorry that Commissioner Pappas can't be here tonight because I'd like to share I would agree with what she said earlier because I too went and reviewed the materials in the minutes and I did not see any minutes that noted that the committee was appointed in public session. So I'm okay with speaking out and saying I misspoke. Wasn't a thing I did purposely. But I also wish you were here because in the public comments, she made reference, and I'm not sure exactly how she said it, but she referred to what I said, what she said. She characterized me as saying it was nonsense, and the minutes really don't reflect that. And the issue that I had, and I will plan to address it next month, I'm sorry to bring it on to a third month. I think the editorial that she wrote is fairly misleading. For instance, it suggested the current plan is to build a centralized facility at the landfill. She also says the street department facility can be salvaged by building a second floor rather than replicate that facility. Also says it also makes no sense to dump all public works vehicles in one facility. And lastly, a centralized location will make the division of public works less efficient. And as I've said all along, and the minutes reflect it very accurately, that we want to gather all the information to make an educated decision as a group. And what I thought was nonsense was putting something like this in the public domain because it shows that we're not working cohesively as a group. And I just would like the minutes to reflect that. Thank you.
Any other commissioners' comments? Any other commissioners? Alderman Jettie.
So there are a few things I wanted to bring up. The Infrastructure Committee heard there's a resolution, I think it's a resolution to allow the Renaissance, the owners of the Renaissance apartments to change what was the plan. I think what was the plan before was to provide, there's a field, an empty lot now on Bridge Street that has been used to some degree for soccer practice. I'm not sure it's being used now. I did speak to Mr. Caggiano about it, and he expressed concern about the feasibility of it, since it's located on a land that contains asbestos that has been capped, and he said that it would be difficult to maintain that field properly. It would require irrigation, and that it would be difficult to do that with without dealing with the asbestos that's located there. So the plan that the developer came up with to instead of providing that field as a playing field for the use of that neighborhood, they proposed to build additional units of housing units. I think it's the number 147 sticks in my mind. I'm not sure that's accurate. And instead of building the field, to pay the city approximately $750,000. When I spoke to Mr. Caggiano about it, he said that he would welcome the money, that he would like to provide or build one or two artificial surfaced soccer fields, that the soccer fields that we have now have such intense use that it's difficult to maintain them, because as kids run up and down on them, they, especially in front of the goals, they dig up the dirt, dig up the grass, and an artificial field similar to what we have at Stello Stadium would be, in Mr. Caggiano's opinion, a much nicer facility that would provide better use to the youth of the city, which sounds fine to me, but during the discussion at the Infrastructure Committee, the Director of Economic Development indicated that that money wouldn't necessarily be used or be allocated to Parks and Recreation, that that would be, in his words, up for a discussion at a later time. And so it concerns me. I think that the original plan was to provide a recreational facility, especially for that neighborhood, and I'm kind of sad that we're losing that open space in an otherwise what's becoming a very dense area. In addition to that housing, there's housing planned for the Temple Street, both sides of Temple Street, the old Henry Hanger building. So I expressed my concerns at that meeting, and I'm wondering how the Board of Public Works feels about whether or not, and also the planning board recommended that this resolution be adopted, but with the provision that the money be allocated for the maintenance, either the building of new fields or the maintenance of old fields. And when it went before the infrastructure committee, that condition was not continued. And I'm wondering how the Board of Public Works would feel, whether they would support an amendment to the resolution which would require that the money be in fact allocated to the Park and Recreation Department for that purpose. So I don't know if people are prepared to talk about that tonight, but
Well, I'm not, is there a resolution? First of all, Cummings doesn't decide. It's the Board of Aldermen that decides what to do with the money. And it is also not his decision, or neither his nor our decision, as to whether to sell the parcel. There's a development agreement which was executed by the city a long time ago, long before my time and yours, which gave up control of those parcels to SMC or whoever their successor is, and which gave them the right to develop that parcel. And I don't think the agreement is the best, because it kind of creates, I think it's better to maybe talk to legal, but the control of the parcel was given, to the BIDA, the Business and Industrial Development Authority. They were given authority by the Board of Aldermen, and an agreement was executed with the developer, which took away control from the Board of Public Works and the Board of Aldermen and the mayor, and gave it to the BIDA as to how to dispose of these parcels. So there were I think, lengthy negotiations between the BIDA and the developer. I think at one point the BIDA proposed that developer walk away. There was the threat of litigation, or at least the possibility of it, over what the development, a violation of the development agreement if the city just terminated it or tried to. So I think the result of the negotiations by the BIDA, pursuant to the authority given them a decade or more ago by the Board of Aldermen, was that they would kind of trade 760, because there was ambiguity in the agreement and the alternative was to fight in court over it, was to trade the $760,000 for the obligation, the potential obligation to create some kind of athletic space. And now it's up to the Board of Aldermen to decide what to do with the money and how to allocate it. And I don't think I think, I needed to check, but I think they were just kind of discussing alternatives. I don't think there is a concrete proposal being proposed or voted on by the infrastructure committee. I think they're just talking, well, what could be done, and they're talking about ideas. I mean, the BIDA wants some of the money, neighborhood would like some of the money allocated to them, Park and Rec would like the money for the fields. So that needs to be worked out, but I don't think there's any definitive proposal yet to do X, Y, or Z. I think it's all just in the discussion phase.
To do X, Y, or Z with the money?
Yes.
Yeah,
So it's, I don't
that
think
was my
they've got something definite in front of them that says, vote on this, just do this with the money. They're just talking about, well, this money may come in if the BIDA enters this agreement, finalizes the agreement. What should we, there's the possibility of this revenue, there's the open question as to how it would be allocated. I think that's sort of where we are.
I think you're
But
correct.
if you want to ask the Board of Public Works' opinion on that, I think it would be best to give them time to think about it, and at a meeting where they're fresher than 2 hours in, and so, some consideration, thoughtful consideration could be given to it. I mean, certainly the Board of Public Works has a valuable input regarding it, but I think that would come to the Board of Public Works if and when a specific proposal is made.
So I
And
don't
now, if
mean,
there's anything wrong, if there are any factual errors in what I've said, I can correct that later, but I don't think there are. I don't think there's any specific resolution. And I don't think they're near to any kind of vote saying this is where the money's gonna go. They're just conceptually saying it's an open question.
I'm not sure we're disagreeing that there is a resolution
Which says
that-
what? What does the resolution say?
that the Renaissance, whoever owns Renaissance, whoever that developer is, can pay the city $750 or so thousand instead of.
Let me check into that. I mean, I think the BIDA in reality has control, and I'm so sure are recommending this, but maybe they're seeking sort of ratification of that or something. But I think the best time this isn't the best time to try to get the Board of Public Works into this issue.
Okay.
It's, we've been here a couple hours, and we should have it on the agenda, and we should give it some thought, and they should receive a briefing on whether my explanation is correct. I mean, we want to make sure it is, and, get the right facts and present the issues to them.
Agree.
So if you don't mind, we'll defer that to when it's, yes, Commissioner Ackerman.
No, I did watch the meeting that Alderman Jettie participated in, and I did have some similar concerns. It's unfortunate, and I think you're right. I think we need clear-cut, concise information. But my takeaway was that end of the city was going to lose some green space, rectangular field, and from my vantage point as a resident, I can't see those kids traveling to the far side or the other side of the city to go to a field.
Well, our issue there is that, first of all, the city tried to get out of this deal. The BID for a long time proposed to the developer, this is the John Mansville parcel. This is where John Mansville used to be.
Yeah.
That's hence the asbestos. Proposed for a long time, look, let's do a mutual walkaway. We'll keep the parcel, you've developed 150 units, let's just forget it. And the answer to that from the developer was absolutely not. Now, the problem from the city's point of view is that the BIDA was authorized to execute a development agreement, which they did with the developer, which gives them the right to go ahead and develop this parcel. So they did not agree to a walkaway. So if the city says, well, we're not going to let you develop the parcel, then we're in a litigation, and they're going to claim that they've lost, X gazillions of dollars in profit because they had a binding agreement that they could develop it. So after, I'd say at least, this is a guess, a year of discussion between the BIDA and the developer, the developer wouldn't walk away. So then, okay, what are their rights under the development agreement, and how can we sort of resolve this whole thing? And that was the kind of the deal that the BIDA, which was given authority by the Board of Aldermen, Jack Tully is the chair of the BIDA. This is the deal that they worked out, and They must be looking for some ratification. I have to look back to see what this resolution is, but this is the deal that they worked out. There was some, even after it was decided, okay, we're going to, you know, we can't do a walkaway because the developer on the other side with contractual rights won't do anything. And again, I don't know if there was anyone currently on the Board of Aldermen who was there when, I mean, there may be a couple of people, but it was at least 10 years ago when this was all given away. So, anyway, so they couldn't get the walkaway. So now we're in this kind of complicated negotiation, and this is what the price that the BIDA negotiated in terms of the compensation the city would receive, $760,000, I think is the number. And certainly there's an issue as to what should be done with the money. Now, the BIDA thinks they should get some of the money so they can do future projects, but they're not asking for $760,000. I think if there were a parcel right there, I mean, the trouble is this is a contaminated parcel. Maybe it would be appropriate. Nick is suggesting maybe not, but it's going to be used up pursuant to the development agreement. So if there were a parcel right there to put a soccer field on, great. You know what I mean? But look, you know, I mean, there aren't a lot of open fields on the east side of Main Street. So I think there's a lot of discussion to be had as to, you know, what should we do? Mr. Schaefer is here. There's some neighborhood people who are saying, well, the money should be spent in the neighborhood, which you're saying also, but probably if it's spent in the neighborhood, it's not going to be a soccer field because where would it get built? So there could be other things done in the neighborhood. There's other, you know, various other things that could improve the neighborhood, and maybe some of the money, maybe all of it should go there. Maybe it should be a soccer field somewhere else, or, you know, that everyone could use, maybe not. Maybe it should go to the neighborhood. I mean, that, you know, obviously everybody's got some validity to what they're saying, you know what I mean? So that's a resolution that has to be discussed, but I think we're in the very preliminary stages. The deal hasn't even closed yet. The money isn't actually in the city's coffers yet. So, I mean, it's kind of a conceptual debate. Yes?
My concern, Mayor, is that this parcel of open land, I mean, you know, if this resolution, my understanding is that this resolution has been, is going to be before the Board of Aldermen at the next meeting for final passage.
Well,
and if it
what resolution is it? I mean,
I can't remember the number, but if it passes, that parcel will be gone, and the potential of using it. I mean, if there's asbestos underneath it, you could build an artificial surface over it, I would think, and still have.
Well, but I think what I've said is accurate, that the BIDA has control over this. I mean, no one from this administration is pushing this development. In fact, if you ask me today, I wish we didn't have to do it. So if there's a way out of it, you're a lawyer, you tell me. But you review the agreements, review the legal opinions, and if you think this is worth litigating, maybe we should, I don't know. I mean, I would rather have the open field myself, but they're telling me, and I know we signed this away a long time ago, because this has been in the works for a long, long time. If there's a way out of this, if the BID is wrong, if the legal department is wrong, if we have the option of getting out of this somehow, the stuff we signed years and years and years ago, when I wasn't even an alderman, okay, great, let's get out of it. I don't want it. I'd rather have the field. But I also don't want to get hit with gazillion dollars, you know, we lost $4 million of profit because the city violated the development agreement. So I don't really want to get hit with a lawsuit that we're going to lose. So we're kind of, you know, we're not in a great position. So I think the BIDA, led by Jack Tully, is trying to, they don't like the deal either. They don't want to particularly go forward. They don't love what's happened. And they don't love having this get built, but they're kind of, again, in, you know, a difficult position because an agreement was signed a long time ago, which is probably not as good as it should be, but there it is. So if you can get us out of this without litigation, go talk to the developer, or whatever you think can be done. If you can get us out of this without litigation, great. Let's keep the field. We don't need the hundreds, you know, it's a lot of money, but we can probably do without it, and we could use the field maybe for something else. So if you can get us out of this, do it. Talk to legal, talk to Tully, talk to the BIDA, go to a BIDA meeting, read all the minutes, read the agreements, figure out how we've gotten to where we are so that you're knowledgeable, informed, and can, you know, actually contribute to a very difficult set of issues. Okay? Okay?
Okay, at the infrastructure committee, none of this information.
Talk to your fellow alderman.
None of this information was
I
provided.
don't know, I wasn't there, but it's
I know
coming,
you
but this
weren't
has been
there.
discussed for a long time. I mean, this is not just coming up. This has been discussed, I mean, it's been into negotiations with the BID for a long, long time. They were probably in a year over this one parcel.
Well,
So this is not like a new issue.
Long before you became mayor.
Long, long
Long,
before.
long.
The IDA should be at that.
And you read, you know, you know, we could get into the whole Renaissance thing. I don't see really what the point is. But here's Mr. Schaefer. Since
Just say something quick, I don't wanna, it's been a long time. The thing that puzzles me is that, you know, they proposed a mixed use area there, but the city says, no, you can build just apartments if you want. That apparently is the talk. And also, you know, the restaurant that they actually even built, and then the city said, no, you can put apartments in there. So I'm saying is the developers constantly getting what they want rather than what they said they were gonna do. So I'm puzzled.
well, I think part of that, of course, you know, okay, they were required to build a restaurant at Renaissance, right? Mr. Shaver lives over there, so.
Yeah.
But they tried to rent the restaurant for like a year, and no one would go in there. So what do you do then? Do you just say you gotta leave the thing vacant forever? I mean, we do have a housing shortage, so the planning board authorizes them to, rather than have an empty restaurant. I'm sort of presuming some of this, but I assume that what they're thinking is that rather than have an empty restaurant, they let them build apartments. And I think their thinking probably is the same with respect to the mixed-use obligation, because they're not gonna build stuff that they can't rent. They couldn't rent the restaurant. Now, you know, we're gonna make them build stuff they can't rent. We do need the housing. I mean, again, this is not a development that the city is pushing. If we could get out of the deal, we tried to get out of the deal for at least a year, and we could negotiate nothing with them. The BIDA was negotiating this. So we tried to get out of the deal for a year. The BIDA, the Business and Industrial Development Authority, a set of business people that has been given control of this thing, they wanted to get out of the deal too, but they couldn't. So here we are. Make the best of it is kind of where we are. And we could litigate, we could.
I mean, I understand that situation, the thing is it was designed to fail because the restaurant, there was supposed to be a promenade there, right? That's why the restaurant was gonna work. And, you know, they even had a contest on the internet with the
Yes.
promenade,
Yeah.
if you recall. So that all went away, and when that goes away, everything else crumbles.
Yeah,
That's the
you're right,
problem.
totally right.
Yeah.
If you read the East Hollis Street area plan, we never should have entered the deal with Renaissance. But, I mean, here we are. So are we gonna go back and like throw stones at all that? Yeah, you're right. It should have the promenade. All that should have been locked into the agreement. There shouldn't have been any agreement. We never should have allowed the thing to go ahead. But we did. Not we sitting here, but the city did this. So now we're in these contracts, and what do we do with it? You know, I don't think anyone's ecstatic about what's happened, but we did enter a binding agreement a long time ago that gives the developer a lot of rights and takes the control of the situation, from what I've been told by the legal people, away from the Board of Aldermen. So even the Board of Aldermen doesn't really have control of this anymore. But again, if somebody can find a way out of this, great. Great. Talk to legal.
Personnel.
Talk to legal.
Well, I'm glad.
Well, if you were, if that was a suggestion, we're moving on to personnel, I would gladly move to approve A through D and accept the resignations of Rollins, Myers, Gittiboni, and Jensen as outlined on our agenda.
Which ones?
I'll do all three, all four of them at once.
Four of them. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And item E?
I move to approve and unseal the minutes of the personnel from the Board of Public Works meeting, June 27, 2019.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Non-public session?
We do have a quick one for personnel.
I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A3, Section 2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee. Want to call the roll, Director?
Let me,
Let's
you want me
wait
to,
for
want
Cheese.
want
Oh,
me
I'm
to
sorry.
wait for him to come back?
That's fine.
and
I
then I'll-
didn't see that he had stepped away.
Do you think we're off the?
Yeah, you gave me that.
We're waiting for you.
But are we getting minutes of this?
Commissioner Tease.
Hi.
We're taking a roll call.
Oh, sorry. You're present.